Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, our mission is to take a masterpiece of strategy that's, 2,500 years old, Sun Tzu's The Art of War,
That's right.
and we want to pull out the principles that are still being used right now, in boardrooms and political campaigns, you name it.
And this is truly foundational stuff. We're talking about a work with 13 sections, 384 distinct theories. It's never gone out of print.
Wow.
It's a core text for military academies all over the world, sure, but its real power, its relevance today, comes from this one kind of startling doctrine.
And that's what we noticed in the research. The main idea isn't really about fighting at all, is it?
Not at all. The central idea, and it might sound surprising, is winning without fighting.
Right.
That's what makes it a shortcut for modern leaders.
Right.
Our job today is to just extract that wisdom. How do you get maximum success with minimum conflict, minimum cost?
And even before we get into tactics, there's this incredible paradox that commentators always bring up. They say that despite the title, The Art of War is often called the Book of Peace. That just completely flips your perspective from the start.
It does, because perfect strategy leads to peace. And that sets us up perfectly for the first big concept, this whole philosophy of minimum force and cost.
Sun Tzu wasn't interested in bloody heroics. He was obsessed with efficiency. And he lays out this hierarchy of skill. People often use that analogy of the three physicians to explain it.
Right. It's a great way to grasp the different levels. The best physician, Sun Tzu would argue, is the one who cures the disease before any symptoms even appear.
So no one even knows they were sick.
Exactly. Their fame never leaves their own home because the public never realized a disaster was prevented.
So they won before the conflict was even visible.
Precisely. The highest level of mastery is defeating enemy armies without ever fighting them. These are the warriors history doesn't remember because there was nothing, dramatic to write down.
Okay, so what if you can't do that? What's the next best thing on his list?
Then you move down a tier. You prevent the enemy from forming alliances. You isolate them. After that, the third best is to attack their army directly in the field.
And the absolute worst.
Laying siege to a walled city, that's the mark of the least skilled commander. The bottom of the ladder.
Why is a siege specifically so bad?
Because it's the complete opposite of everything he values. It's messy, it's guaranteed to be slow, it eats up resources, and that leads directly into his next point. The unforgiving economy of conflict.
Okay, let's talk numbers here, because Sun Tzu he was utterly fixated on the logistics, the finance of war.
He knew it could cripple a state faster than any battle. He calculated that an army of 100,000 soldiers needs at least 1,000 silver ingots daily.
Daily.
Just for upkeep. That's before you even factor in transport, supply lines, all of that. And if a war drags on, a really bad negative feedback loop starts.
How so?
Well, your weapons get dull, morale breaks, your strength just diminishes. And crucially, other rival factions or states, they see you're exhausted. And they move in to exploit that weakness.
So a long war doesn't just cost lives. It destroys the state's ability to even function. And it paints a target on your back for everyone else.
Precisely. Sun Tzu is completely blunt about it. No country has ever benefited or emerged victorious from a long, protracted war. It's an economic death spiral.
Which means efficiency is the only real goal? And an intelligent commander gets that efficiency by using the enemy's resources, not their own.
That's the metric. That is what separates the genius from the brute. He calculates that one cart of enemy supplies you capture is worth 20 of your own carts that you'd have to haul from home.
Just because of the transport costs.
The immense costs. The shortest path to victory is always the one that costs you the least, in time, treasure, and morale.
And that idea that avoiding the fight is actually the most profitable strategy. That's what hits home for modern business. But to achieve that kind of victory, you need to understand the philosophy behind it. Let's get into the Taoist influence here.
The whole work is just steeped in Taoist thought. You can see it in the dualities, like in the I Ching. This is where the whole defensive attack concept comes from.
Like in martial arts.
Exactly like Far East martial arts. You use the opponent's own force against them. Maximize damage with minimum energy. It's all about preserving your own power.
And the most practical way to preserve that energy is, of course, deception. Sun Tzu is incredibly straightforward about this.
He says it's an axiom. All warfare is based on deceptions and surprise. And he's not talking about little tricks. He means creating a totally false reality for your opponent.
Appear weak when you're strong.
Inactive when you're on the move. Far away when you're right on top of them.
It's the art of being invisible. Incomprehensible. I love that line. Be so hidden that you are invisible, so mysterious that your voice isn't even heard. What does that invisibility actually achieve for you strategically?
If the enemy can't see your true shape, they have to spread their forces out. They waste resources on ghosts, on false threats. They exhaust themselves preparing for everything, which means they're prepared for nothing.
And that ties into another one of those core Taoist ideas, right? The concept of emptiness and fullness.
It does, directly.
So how does Sun Tzu define fullness for an army or any organization, really?
Fullness is total alignment. When your civil and military leadership is good, when everyone from the top down is united in thought and energy, you're cohesive, you're well-supplied, morale is high, that's fullness.
And emptiness is just the opposite.
It's disunity, bad logistics, unhappiness in the ranks, a disconnect between commanders and their troops. Emptiness is vulnerability.
So the whole strategy is to keep your own fullness intact while you chip away at the enemies.
You make them expend their energy.
You force them to. You never give them a clear target. You attack where they're weak, where they're empty, and you avoid them where they're strong, where they're full.
You make the enemy chase a ghost. And you make them tired doing it, as he says. Good warriors do not go to the enemy's feet. They ensure the enemy comes to theirs. You make them march, you make them worry, and you choose the battlefield.
But before any of this brilliant maneuvering can happen, you need a plan, a blueprint. Sun Tzu starts by saying, this isn't a game. It's a matter of life and death for the state.
And that seriousness demands exhaustive planning. He gives you a checklist, the 5 mandatory factors you have to assess before you even think about going to war.
Let's run through them. The first is alignment, or he calls it morality. This is about the people, right?
It's the most critical factor. It's the political bond between the leader and the public. If the people are unified with their leader, they'll follow them to their death without a second thought.
You can't just command that loyalty.
You have to earn it. It has to be a consensus.
Okay. Factor 2 is climate, or weather. Seems simple, but it's more than just checking the forecast, I assume.
Oh, it's total environmental awareness.
Yeah.
Seasons, day and night, hot and cold. Choosing the right season affects your food supply, it prevents epidemics among your troops, and it makes sure you don't disrupt the harvest back home.
Right, you have to think about the whole system. Factor 3, terrain.
Distance, obstacles like passes and valleys, and basically the life or death chances the geography itself gives you. And he stresses you have to use local guides.
You can't plan it from a map.
You absolutely can't. You need that on-the-ground knowledge.
Number 4 is leadership, and he defines a good leader with 5 specific virtues.
Yes. Intelligence, trustworthiness, humanity, courage, and discipline. And what's fascinating is you have to have all 5 in balance.
So a leader who's just courageous but not smart is a liability.
A huge liability. And someone who's trustworthy but lacks courage is ineffective. Balance is everything.
And the last one, number 5, is discipline. This feels like the internal machinery of the army.
It is. It's organizational harmony, logistics, and a fair system of rewards and punishments. That fairness is key. If the troops think the system is biased, morale is gone.
So you use these 5 factors to basically predict the outcome.
It's strategic forecasting. You do a comparative analysis. Who has better alignment? Whose army is more disciplined? Whose reward system is more fair? If you run through those questions, you should know who's going to win before a single sword is drawn.
And if you can't predict victory,
you don't move. You don't fight.
There's a huge political warning he attaches to all this, too.
A major one. He is crystal clear that for any of this to work, the commander has to have full authority. They cannot be interfered with by the civilian government.
Because the politicians don't understand military matters.
Right. And he warns that their meddling will destroy the army's balance and make victory impossible. It's a plea for, respecting expertise.
A plea that is still incredibly relevant.
Yeah.
Okay, let's wrap up with how all this planning turns into action through momentum and intelligence.
Right. So victory for Sun Tzu doesn't come from individual heroes. He's not interested in the samurai-style duel. It comes from organizational momentum. He calls it energy.
And that momentum needs to be unstoppable. I love that analogy he uses. It's like
the irresistible momentum of round stones rolling down a mountain thousands of meters high.
Oh.
And that force isn't about brute strength. It's about preparation, position, and flexibility. He says tactics are like water. They have no fixed form. Victory comes from adapting to whatever the enemy is doing in that exact moment.
Which brings us back to that ultimate quote that everyone knows but maybe doesn't fully get. Know thyself, know thy enemy.
And he wasn't just being poetic. He said, if you know yourself and your enemy well, there is no danger. If you know neither yourself nor your opponent, then you face danger in every single battle.
And the only way to get that knowledge is through intelligence gathering.
The absolute imperative. He dedicates the entire last chapter to it. He calls it the single greatest requirement for strategy and says that skimping on it to save a little money is inhumane behavior.
That's strong language.
It's a fundamental duty of a leader, and he even breaks down the types of spies you need. A whole system.
Right, the 5 categories.
You have local spies from the area, internal spies from the enemy's own staff, then you have the fascinating ones, like doomed spies,
The ones you send with false information on purpose.
knowing they'll be caught. But the most valuable are the converted spies enemy agents you've bribed. They have the real inside track. And finally, the surviving spies, the ones who actually make it back with the intel.
It's a complete system.
It is, and it shows that if you fail to plan, fail to get intel, and fail to keep your own house in order, you're just acting on emotion. And for Sun Tzu, that's the same as certain destruction.
It's just such a dense, profound work. It's so much more than a war manual. It's a study of human psychology, a guide to minimizing conflict and getting results efficiently.
And that efficiency is the absolute T. It's not about who has the biggest stick, it's about who has the strategic wisdom.
To leave you with a final thought, think about that old story of the Monkey King. It's a cautionary tale. The Monkey King's big problem was that he had all this power, but no intelligence, no wisdom.
He was arrogant, driven by pure passion.
Right. And he only found his way when a magical ring was put on his head that would tighten every single time he acted recklessly. Sun Tzu's philosophy is kind of like that ring for strategists today. It gives you the rules, the checks, the 5 factors, the need for intel, the focus on winning without fighting. They keep your own ego in check. And history is just littered with leaders who had overwhelming power but ignored that wisdom.
And they all felt that metaphorical ring tighten.
Go forth, be wise, and plan your victories before the battle even begins. That's all the time we have to this deep dive.